Ladies and gentlemen, while we were preparing for this seminar, we invited research articles from learned academicians and practitioners, both from India and abroad. We are delighted to mention that we have received many interesting contributions, and we have come up with a compilation of selected articles in the form of a booklet. We take the opportunity to request Chief Guest for the function, Dr. Khuntia, to kindly unveil the seminar research paper booklet for all of us.
Thanks a lot. It's an honor for us, academia as a whole, to introduce our esteemed chief guest, Dr. Subhash Chandra Khuntia, Chairman, IRDAI. Dr. Subhash Chandra Khuntia assumed office of Chairman, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India in May 2018. Appointed to the Indian Administrative Service in 1981 and belonging to Karnataka cadre, Sir has an illustrious career in civil service spanning over 36 years. Sir has been Chief Secretary, Government of Karnataka, and before that, in Government of Karnataka, Sir has served in various capacities in departments of finance, revenue, personnel, urban development, rural development, and public works and ports. In Government of India, Sir has served in Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Human Resource Development, and Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. He worked as Secretary, School Education and Literacy, Government of India and Ministry of Human Resource Development. Sir also served as Government nominee, Director on the boards of Indian Oil Corporation, ONGC, and Hindustan Petroleum Corporation. Dr. Khuntia is an alumnus of Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, from where he did his post-graduation in computer science and physics. Sir has a doctorate in economics and is also a law graduate. Let's put our hands together in welcoming Dr. Khuntia, Chairman IRDAI.
Director of the National Insurance Academy, Mr. Srinivasan, CMD of GIC, and also the chairperson of National Insurance Academy, Mrs. Alice Vaidyan, the head of South Asia region of Swiss Re, Mr. Satish Raju, CEOs and senior functionaries of insurance companies, participants in this conference, and the faculty members and the students of the National Insurance Academy. I'm really happy to be here because this is one topic on which we need to deliberate on a much larger scale, because climate change is real. Some 10 years back, people were debating, there were two schools of thought. One school of thought was a kind of skeptic school, which thought that the climate always keeps, fluctuating. And I think we have jumped to a conclusion that the climate is changing and all, but it may not actually be so. So there are quite a few books which challenge this climate change theory. But I think progressively, as we now, more and more people are now converting to the concept that actual climate change is real. If you look at, I think today's newspaper talks of the NASA report, which says that the 18 warmest years in the recorded history, that is probably the ambient temperature has been recorded for maybe last 150 years or so. So the 18 warmest years are after 2001. That is all the years from 2001 to 2018. The 5 warmest years again are 2010, 2015, 16, 17, and 18. So this could not be only by chance. It is definitely caused, what is called anthropomorphic. That is, it is caused by the activities of human beings. It is not a kind of natural phenomenon that the climate is changing. And particularly the warming of the atmosphere because of greenhouse gas emission, mostly carbon dioxide and methane. There are 6 different gases which warm the atmosphere, but these 2 contribute the largest. So by burning fossil fuel, by various economic activities that we are doing, I think that is changing the atmosphere. And you have all seen the film where the girl from Sweden talks about the intergenerational equity, that when she becomes 70 years old, what will be there and who is responsible for that? Because we must, since we have inherited this earth from our ancestors, we should also leave a good earth for our successors. So now in this, what is the role of insurance industry and how insurance industry can also get involved? Because insurance industry is basically for risk mitigation and risk management. And how this risk, this is a very large global risk, and how to manage this risk and how it is going to affect the insurance companies, first we need to analyze, because in many ways, I believe in the last 2 years, 2017 and 18, both years have seen a large number of catastrophic events, and insurance companies have generally found it difficult in these last 2 years. So how to also protect themselves, these insurance companies, that also we have to, because we are all part of the insurance industry, so we also have to rise to the occasion. Then the calamities that are happening, there is a huge protection gap in Kerala flood. Mrs. Vaidyan said that 90% protection gap was there in the areas which were affected. And overall also in our country, perhaps the protection gap would be of the order of 80%. So how do we handle it? I think this conference, this 2-day conference should deliberate on the issues, and I compliment all the 3 dignitaries and the dais. They are all associated with organizing this seminar, this conference, and this is very timely, and we need to look at what insurance companies should do, what the government should do, what is expected from the society at large, and how do insurance companies also, prepare themselves to face this situation. So these should be deliberated, and I think this is the starting point. I think for the first time you are having this kind of a conference, and we have reinsurance companies which have got kind of global kind of statistics and experience, and they know what is happening. And the purpose of insurance is, of course, to spread the risk so that many people, when they are involved, then the each participant will be able to bear that risk, but otherwise it becomes unmanageable. So there are some issues that we need to look at, and also these catastrophic events, besides, enhancing the liability of insurance companies wherever the insurance is there, also it may affect the long-term economy of the area, and that also may affect the insurability, and also the, once the economy goes into a tailspin, then the, affordability of insurance, the demand for insurance, this demand may rise, but affordability will be less, so the insurance companies also may suffer. So the way to find solutions to this climate risk, two ways it may affect the insurance companies. One is on liability side. Another way is on the investment side also, because the insurance companies are long-term investors in general, and the investment risk also may go up, because therefore they will also have to find ways how to do innovative risk transfers. There are various methods, many of you would know. Sometimes by pools can be, industry-wide pools can be formed. There can be securitization of climate risk liabilities. We have talked, we have heard of CAT bonds, which are issued by some countries and companies. Then the other diversification strategies. So the risks faced by the insurance companies are truly multidimensional. And particularly, for example, crop insurance, there will be huge risk because the crops are the first to be affected by the climate change, extreme weather. So there are more frequent droughts, more frequent floods, cyclones, and all this. So this is one area. Similarly, any other agriculture-related insurance, whether it is fisheries, whether it is horticulture, animal husbandry, there is likely to be greater effect. Then the insurance companies also collect the past data to do actuarial analysis of insurance. So now you may need to analyze much longer series of data, and even that also may not be completely adequate, because if the climate is changing, then the past trend may not hold good for the future. So I think you will have to do further analysis to refine this system and find out what are the new dynamics, so that the insurance business remains viable. In terms of investment, I think insurance companies need to have more diversification. There should not be concentration of investment in a few companies, because sometimes these disasters may strike some of the companies in a much greater intensity than the others. And if your investment is concentrated in only a few, with a few entities, I think there will be greater risk. So how these exposures need to be managed, I think you will have to safeguard that. Then I think the theme of today's conference is both adaptation and mitigation. So adaptation means the kind of helping the society to become resilient. So insurers have to create products and all which help the clientele to adapt themselves and become resilient. So also you can say encourage, a different type of behavior so that adaptation can be easier by giving premium discount for those who are using sustainable energy, those who are using kind of a green technology, those who are, like in earthquake prone areas, if the houses are earthquake resistant, so there you can give, of course that you must be already doing, but these are examples of, preparing people for adaptation. And then the how to, even through the even through investment also, I think we know that greenhouse gas emission needs to be curtailed. So there are some, kind of energy intensive industries. I think in many Western countries, many insurance companies have taken a decision not to invest in those companies which are highly energy intensive and which are affecting the environment. So that, since if insurance companies are a big investor, so that will influence the working of the economic system in the world. And I think many kind of environment unfriendly types of industries may reduce their level of operation. So this is one way I think the mitigation measures can be helped by the insurance industry. There are also reinsurance is a kind of reinsurance companies. They have large research and development facilities, and they do kind of, so they they have a great role to play in this, in making the primary insurers aware and conscious about this climate change mitigation and adaptation measures. And I'm happy that Swiss Re is the partner today, and I think many other reinsurance companies we would like that their expertise and talent should be disseminated among all the insurance companies, so that ultimately, by all your different ways that you give advice, so that the insurance companies can design insurance products which would help in reducing the greenhouse gas emission, and also the human effort in disturbing the environment, how it can be reduced to the maximum. In fact, simple things like now the motor vehicle insurance. Suppose you change over to insurance policies which will, the premium will depend upon the distance traveled by a vehicle. That itself will make people conscious, and they will try to travel less, and that itself, because that also will be an environment friendly measure. Many similar things can be thought of, and I think the innovative product design, and then making it widely aware among the policyholders should be possible. Similarly, in vulnerable areas, the properties, if they are insured, then the burden on the government, like what has happened in Kerala, can be reduced to a great extent. And this, I am aware that some of the city municipal corporations, they are actually paying the premium on behalf of the property on behalf of the households out of the property tax collected, and that makes the people safe against any disaster. This can be particularly in those vulnerable areas if the city corporations can make it compulsory, and now they give a kind of discount for property tax if it is paid early. So that discount that they give, instead of giving a discount, they can use that fund to pay the premium for this property insurance. And I think then the local area or the local government doesn't have to, financially overburden, and like Kerala has now put a 1% cess, etc. Instead of that, if it had been properly insured, then the insurance companies would have been able to manage that risk. Similarly, the catastrophic bonds and all, we should also look at, I think in this conference you can look at the feasibility of catastrophic bonds. Then there is another suggestion that the insurance companies should also build up some cat reserve so that that risk which they retain, of course, that which is reinsured, the reinsurance company takes the risk, but what is retained with the company, part of it, once in a while, if there is any catastrophic event, they will be able to manage from that reserve fund. So this is also one area, I think, in this 2-day conference, you can deliberate and find out the contours of if this, this suggestion, if it could be, if you can develop some kind of a model that this can work. So basically, an integrated approach needs to be followed, because the climate change has to become a core business issue for all insurance companies and insurance entities. And finally, besides, risk management, also the insurance companies have to create a situation so that behavioral change takes place among the policyholders. They become more aware of the dangers of this climate change, and through various types of products, we have to, those should act as incentives and disincentives, so that people would change their behavior and create a safer earth for us in the future. Government of India has also many initiatives in this direction. We have a National Water Mission, National Solar Mission, National Mission for Sustainable Agriculture, National Mission for a Green India. Then we have a National Clean Energy and Environment Fund that has been created out of the, cess put on the coal and other such environment unfriendly industry. So from the policyholders' perspective, I think insurance companies have to create awareness, the access to the specific products need to be improved. The design of products also will have to be looked into. Then as a regulator, of course, we would like that the all the insurance companies have to be viable in the long term. So, what steps could be taken so that, in spite of this catastrophic events arising out of climate change, I think you remain financially stable and also contribute to, reducing the effect of climate change on the earth. That will be the most important. And even some of the basic kind of mandates of government, like early warning system, these also insurance companies can take a greater role. Suppose all your policyholders, they have got now mobile connectivity is very good. The insurance companies also can, besides the government issuing a warning, insurance companies can also warn their policyholders so that, in time if kind of early warning is given regarding any flood or kind of cyclone, etc., that can substantially reduce loss of life and property. And also insurance companies would stand to gain in the process, because if there is less loss, then less claim is to be paid. So I think I would say that insurance companies should really go all out to interact with other stakeholders so that we create a kind of financially resilient future for the mankind and for our country, because particularly in India, if any climate change related events happen, whether it is the rise in the ocean level or, because of temperature change, the agricultural pattern changes, whatever happens, since we are the second most populous country in the world, a very large number of people would be affected. And it goes without saying that a very large number of policyholders also would be affected, and that will ultimately, that risk also will be transmitted to insurance companies. So I think it's the right time that we deliberate on this issue. And as far as IRDAI is concerned, I would be very happy to get feedback from this two-day conference about what a regulator could do to help you in this venture, and let us all join together to ensure a better world in the future. Thank you very much.